Welcome to another VC Wisdom Pod with Dave Richards. He is managing partner at Capria Ventures with an S. They are spread throughout the world. It's quite interesting. See some Brazil here, some India, some Argentina, and they invested in even African businesses. And as someone that is constantly testing out these markets myself, making tests out there, I have a bunch of questions for Dave. So today's going to be a blast. We're going to talk about his portfolio thesis. We're going to talk about GenAI and everything in between. So Dave, can you give us a quick intro about yourself, about Capria? And yeah, let's jump right into it.
Sure. So I got the bug for computers right from high school. Took that into college. Spent most of my time in the computer lab, even though I was doing finance and accounting, and joined a startup right out of college. And haven't stopped since. It's been about 20 years building tech companies, mostly based on the West Coast of the US, but having operations globally, hundreds of millions of revenue. Then we set up our firm about 11 years ago now, Capria Ventures, initially in India to invest. And then, as you mentioned, we've expanded now across what we call the Global South, which includes the tech hotspots of Latin America and Africa and Southeast Asia, in addition to India.
Very cool. I see on your LinkedIn here, you searched or went for international experiences quite quickly, amongst others, Bodega Ventures. Then I see here Nargis Library Recovery. So why were you attracted to foreign markets that early in your career?
Yeah, so I think some of it's my bringing up. My parents were very interested in international things. We did a lot of traveling, so I kind of got that bug early on. But I think what sparked my interest mostly was this really interesting innovation around what was at that point called microfinance, or actually maybe even microcredit at that point, back now 20 years ago. And that's where I really got my first toes in the water, particularly in India, but also a few other markets, where basically a new generation of financial institutions was being built from scratch to serve people who never had a bank account, never had access to capital or anything. And that really got me intrigued, bringing my business skills to the table as building tech businesses globally, but also just seeing that there was actually a much more sustainable and interesting way to not only build businesses, but also to build profitable businesses that actually had also social impact with them.
And on a business side, well, just before I ask that question, microfinance doesn't ring with profitability and bringing in big dollars. Am I wrong in saying that?
You're very wrong, and that was true 20 years ago. Today, it is tens of billions of dollars business. It's very profitable. It's a core asset for a lot of investors right now, to just like the part of their kind of financial services allocation.
And is that because there's platforms that allow scale? Because microfinance is just the quantity. You can bring billions, of course, if you have, let's say, if you loan out money to 10,000 Latam entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Is that why it's more interesting nowadays?
Well, I think first thing that's happened is it's just the scale of these businesses has really scaled up, meaning that they have billions of dollars worth of balance sheets that they're lending out. Many of them have also become not just microfinance lenders, but also banks. So they're actually lending to small businesses and other kinds of activities, other kinds of products. So they become more financial services companies or banks rather than simply microcredit.
Then the question I was about to ask, because my background's also in international business, which is why I deal from clients from all around the world nowadays, and I constantly test in multiple markets. It's just that I find that most people are not looking at those markets. They're hyper-focused on one market, and I think one, they may miss out the bigger picture, but they also miss out micro opportunities. So how have you monetize that international interest of yours into finding out opportunities out of the bloom? And how do you find these opportunities? For example, on my side, I use cold email to contact a bunch of people, including you. and as a result, I can get really interesting opportunities. So how do you actually manifest these deals?
Yeah, so similar to you, we're pretty good at digital marketing and sort of hacking and reaching out. And we kind of bootstrapped what we were doing here back 10 plus years ago by doing that and literally reaching out, leveraging all the networks we had at that point, but also building new networks. And so we've got, a massive database now of many tens of thousands of people who are involved in let's call it the VC/startup ecosystem across the global South. And that's been our specialty. We've scraped a lot of different sources and things to build that initially. But then we've also built much deeper relationships, because in many ways, finding the needle in the haystack, that next really interesting investment company's founder, does require local and on the ground sort of knowledge of that. And so part of our strategy is we actually have partnered with 18 different local VC firms across these different markets, and leveraging their relationship capital, their networks as well. And they often are coming in actually even earlier as an investor than we are. And then we partner with them to invest in the best of the companies that they initially have identified. So that's one kind of special secret sauce that we have that gives us access to a very large. We have about 350 companies in our portfolio today. So we have a lot of data points as well that we're starting to see, and we can start to see things that are how margins compare across these different markets. You can see how growth rates, you can see how other kinds of costs of acquisition. These are really important things to understand to be able to identify something that you think might be in a potential breakout.
And what are some of the gold mines that you've hit over your full career, including your current portfolio? Because product market fit is a moving target. So
Sure.
What have been these instances in which you've hit it big with some of your bets?
Sure. So one area that we were probably one of the earliest investors in India, I mentioned India was kind of where we started, so we have had a longer track record there, is an area that we now call job tech. And what it is it's sort of, it is a combination of HR tech, but also some other areas, which are really organized around thinking on the worker and, how can a worker get either a job or a better job. And one of the things we identified in India is every month, 1 million youth turn 18 every month, literally. That's going to happen for the next decade. And so, and there's not enough jobs being generated in India for those people. So they either have to go and figure out, something on their own, or, they have to, be unemployed, or, whatever, some other factor. So we've backed a company called Better Place that basically what they've done is they've created a tech platform to enable large companies in India and now beyond India, in Southeast Asia and the Middle East, to be able to manage the whole life cycle of identifying and recruiting workers, to training them, to onboarding them, to giving them the financial services and other kinds of things, getting them paid, all that kind of stuff. They literally have millions of workers on their platform. And this is an area that now we're starting to see more investors attracted to, because we've shown that this can be something of scale. And they mostly work with blue collar workers, which again are the majority of the workers in these economies. They're not white collar, which is a much smaller section. But we've seen that, and this is a company that has quickly grown to become a leader in India, but not only in India, but also now in Southeast Asia, and now starting the Middle East.
It's very cool. And the Gen AI turn that you took, I'm guessing, was somewhat recent. It's definitely a turn that I would have taken as well, alongside the international one. Why did you decide to take that turn, and what Gen AI companies do you have in your portfolio that is catching your attention right now?
Yeah. So 3 of the partners in our firm are all have been in technology businesses before, technology, startups and growth. And we've also been in the platform business. My co-founder ran the Windows business for Microsoft for many years. I helped to get a digital media platform built along with my other founder of Capria in a previous life. So we saw the opportunity. A lot of people saw the opportunity, but we saw it from, we've been there and done that with other platforms previously. Most recently, it's been the mobile platform that has really revolutionized access to access to the internet and services. But now we see with generative AI a huge and actually different opportunity in the emerging economies than in the developed economies. And in particular, so we see the world kind of being in Gen AI to be split into two kind of groupings. One is a lot of the investment that's going into it now from Silicon Valley is going into the, we call the infrastructure, and also the tools that are people doing. So this is the large language models. It's the tools to enable those, the very horizontal ones. And that's going to be, a lot of money is going to pile into that. And there's going to be a few big winners. There's going to be a lot of money lost in that space. And that's great. But the big actually opportunity is not just building the infrastructure, and big tech is going to have a big role in that. It's actually how you apply it. So we're actually focused on application of Gen AI into tech-enabled services businesses. And we're seeing basically the ability to take a good business and make it a great business. One of the more interesting elements is when you invest in, trying to build a business or customers in a place like Mexico or like India or like Nigeria, one of the biggest issues in your market potential size is the price point, meaning that there's a certain ability to pay a certain amount of money. And if it's above that, people just can't afford it. And the price point is driven by really two fundamental things. One is, what does it cost you to acquire a customer? If you can reduce that, you can reduce your price point. Second is, what does it cost you to serve that customer over time? So if you can reduce those two, you can lower your price point. You can sometimes increase your market 3, 5, 10, 20x as many people to serve. And we're seeing this as, we're seeing a new generation of companies and startups now that are able to leverage Gen AI to effectively lower the price point and open up vast new markets.
Love it. This year hasn't been the best year for VC. So how are you adapting, and what's your strategy to get a couple of great bets this year in a couple of years from now?
Yeah. Well, we've already made a number of bets this year, but you're right, things have slowed down. We're taking our time to really make sure we've got the right founders, the right plans that we want to back. I think that this crunch on this winter, whatever you want to call it, on capital, is resulting in entrepreneurs having to think things differently and how they were building things. And I think that that's causing, in many cases, some of the really great entrepreneurs. And as we know historically, when you have a crunch time, often the next generation companies come out of those hard times, because you have to think about what is really truly revolutionary in what you're doing. So I think you'll see us continue to make investments at a little bit slower pace this year than we have for the last couple of years, but I think we're seeing some great quality entrepreneurs.
Talking about these entrepreneurs, how do you identify that they're great picks? Because we often talk about founder product market fit. Well, how do you find the great founder in that equation?
That is it's both a science and an art. I think the science element would be doing your homework on trying to understand the fundamentals of the disruption they're trying to build. And then the art is really finding entrepreneurs who really have the characteristics. It's interesting, there's a lot of debate out there around how much how critical is it for founders to be experts in the area previously to the company they're founding. And there's a lot of interesting data, for instance, on fintech, where it shows that if you take some of the best companies in fintech, that are the biggest companies in fintech, they're kind of evenly split between people who had kind of banking finance backgrounds and people who had none. And in the first case, it's like, oh, I saw a problem, I could go solve it, in a better way. The other one was, people saying this is broken. There must be a better way to do this. But I'm not going to have the limitations of someone who knows what can't be done. So I think you see both of those. Both, though you can find founders in that thing. I think resilience is actually a really interesting one right now. We're seeing actually a lot of founders getting burnt out. Many of them had stepped in like a couple of years ago with this big rush of investment and thought, oh, we'll build a company and we'll sell in a couple of years, we'll make a lot of money, and it hasn't turned out that way. And meaning that the money's dried up. They've got to do more with less. They've got to reduce their team sizes, which is super painful. They've got to change the culture. And so resilience and grit is a really key thing that we try to help identify. And I think generally it's something that you see from past behavior, meaning that have they had that resilience in previous examples. I think also collaboration. I mean, if you just want to completely be on your own and you don't want to bring and try and get people around you that can complement you, I think I think that's a sign for us that maybe that's not the best entrepreneur for us to work with.
And wouldn't that be like the number one founder in a couple of years once we have AI agents that can do as they're told by a top human brain?
I'm not sure I understand. You're saying an AGI or something
No, just a human that is surrounded by a team of AI agents. So a very smart human that can just command these AIs that can follow his directions.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely this idea that we're going to be augmented in our capabilities, all of us. It won't just be founders. I think it will be workers at all different levels. That in work and actually in personal life, you probably have an AI to help you as well, with organizing your life and giving you support and other kinds of things. So I think AI is going to have a profound impact, and it's so available. I think that's the other thing too, is that we, pretty much everyone now, even in the markets that we work in, even the most low income people have, a $20 smartphone now. So I think this is going to, we actually think of it as the great equalizer, because what's really interesting is because of the language, limitations that, most people only speak one language or maybe two. They're limited historically to accessing knowledge of the web and knowledge of the world in the language they have. Now with the ability for essentially any language to people to be able to converse and in any language with an artificial intelligence engine, and then hear that and get access to all the data behind that in any language, it really changes it and creates huge new opportunities.
And how do you think this technology can benefit people in the Gaza Strip, for example? How do you think they can benefit from all that internet information and revolution we've been having, but obviously they didn't lately with what happened?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the situation there, other than I know that there's been, some startups trying to do things in Palestine, and trying to bring different solutions. But I definitely think this is going to, open up opportunities for everyone. So it's not going to be limited going forward.
Thank you for showing up today, Dave. Where can people find out more about you?
Oh, super. Great. Yeah. Capria.vc is our website, gives you some stuff. We're also on LinkedIn and Twitter, X. And yeah, glad to meet you as well, and glad to have this conversation.